Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Search with Candour. I am your host, Jack Chambers Ward, and this is the podcast where I interview the best and brightest in SEO and digital marketing. And this week is one of those people, the one and only Bengü Sarıca Dinçer. Absolutely fantastic guest talking all about GA4 attribution models, the metrics we can be tracking when it comes to things like AI search, and the things we need to be really factoring into things like discoverability and visibility for our brands as a whole, and how we can use GA4 to accomplish our goals and track our goals and metrics, and what we really should be tracking when it comes to our brands and our sites in 2026. It is a brilliant conversation. I think I say it in the episode, but I finally found somebody who actually likes GA4. Ha ha ha. The only other exception to that rule, a couple of other exceptions. There are 3 people I trust for GA4 recommendations. This is now the second person of those 3 that has been on the podcast. The first is Dana Di Tommaso, who I've had on the show a couple of times. Absolutely love Dana. Fantastic stuff that Dana and the team do about all different kinds of stuff when it comes to GA4. The second person is Kyle Rushton-McGregor, who I'm definitely going to have on the show in the future. The man who I have been mistaken for at Brighton SEO previously. We are similarly looking gentlemen. And the third is this week's guest, Bengü, who is just brilliant and insightful and interesting. And I hope you really enjoyed this conversation, because I feel like I learned a lot. And we coined a really cool new term. I think it will catch on in the SEO and digital marketing industry, because I think it's really cool and funny. So please enjoy my conversation with Bengü all about GA4 and what we should be tracking and measuring to measure our success in 2026. My guest is an SEO consultant specializing in SaaS and growth-driven search strategies. You may recognize her from appearances on podcasts such as SEO in 2026, Search with Sean, and The Search Session, or speaking at conferences like Brighton SEO, SERPConf, coming up very soon, and Search and Stuff, or contributions to publications such as Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land, Wix, Moz, Sitebob, and so much more. She is the SEO manager at Designmodo. Welcome to Search with Candour, Bengü Sarıca Dinçer.
Thank you so much for having me and introducing me.
Of course.
In the best way.
It's lovely to have you on. I know we've had a few conversations over the years, and I feel like you and I have we've literally crossed paths in rooms, been like, oh, hello, hi, and then never had a proper conversation and sat down and got nerdy about fun things like SEO and all the fun things we're going to talk about. I don't know, something you're very knowledgeable about and you actually enjoy is GA4. So we're going to get into some nice GA4 conversations today, I feel.
Yeah. Before we start, I remind that we have a picture of us together, but you don't know about it, I believe. Jordan Dimitrov sent me that a couple of months ago. We were there together, you, me, Jordan, and Miriam, and some of other SEO people in Brighton, 3 years ago. But we were not knowing each other at the time. But
my God, wow. That's so cool. I love seeing those photos where if there's a group of you and then you said oh my God, we were in the same photo. That's crazy. We never actually properly met and shook hands. And and again, we saw each other in Brighton. We saw each other in London a few weeks ago as well. But it's always is just hi, hello, and never properly having a conversation.
True. So this is a great opportunity to have some literal conversations with you finally.
Exactly. And as we were just talking about before we started recording, getting into GA4, what visibility, what discoverability means in this era of search that we're in at the moment in 2026, when we're talking about what we should be tracking, what we should be thinking about, all the things that, I feel like so many of us are hesitant to really implement into our GA4 and actually really get our hands dirty with it. I don't know, you've inspired a lot of people to do that through your talks and through your appearances. So hopefully, viewers and listeners, Bengü is going to inspire you to get more hands-on with your GA4 and be more active and proactive with stuff, right?
Hopefully.
So let's start with, I guess, where my mind first goes to with, all of the changes that are happening at the moment in SEO and content and marketing and all this kind of stuff. And is what actual metrics should we be tracking to measure success? Because I think a lot of people, we so focus on the classic stuff, impressions, clicks, users, website visitors, all that kind of stuff. How are you feeling about the metrics we should actually be tracking at the moment to get a real idea of success for our clients, our websites, and our content?
Yeah, we have seen a big shift in user behavior because, the search interface has been changed a lot. Now people encounter your website, your brand, in way more places. Now we have AI summarizes and newsletters, community discussions, social posts, or random screenshots people share with their friends in group chats. So the old metrics like organic sessions, rankings like clicks, or maybe conversions, if we were lucky enough, are outdated. Not outdated, but very incomplete, let's say. So the metrics I pay attention to now are much more influence oriented rather than channel oriented ones. So, for example, I care about assisted conversions rather than last click conversions, and branded search growth after a content push, and returning visitors, returning users, of course, and scroll depth, engagement rates, especially educational, informational content, and something I call as content eco. When a topic starts appearing in brand queries or in community threads or even AI generated answers, it is called content eco. It's like something like becoming viral-ish, I can say. So yeah, basically, I no longer ask like, did this blog post convert, or this individual page convert. I'm now asking like, did this piece of content move someone closer to trusting the brand? Because it's now starting the relationship between the brand and users and potential leads. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think like you can dig into a little bit like assisted conversions being a great thing you highlighted there, because I think so many of us were so used to the previous attribution models, right? Like first click, last click, and all that kind of stuff. And I know GA4 very much moves towards blended models, hybrid models, machine learning assisted models as well. Could you get into a bit more about what you mean by the assisted conversion side of things?
it's like, you have micro conversions, micro goals, maybe I can say. And when you dig out the whole journey, you see that people might not click the purchase button, but before that last click, the purchase button, they do some micro conversions. And assisted conversions are a big part of those journey, because they are literally pushing people to do the last touch, I believe. Also, we have lots of platforms, AI tools, Reddit and TikTok and other platforms. And they are also assisting people to discover more about our content, but yeah, not totally helping a lot to click, but maybe they are just helping to discover. So I call discoverability and assisted conversions as a part of the whole user journey. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, absolutely. I like you said, the user journey is so I would say
messy.
multi-directional. It's very messy, right? Yeah, I mean it's multi-directional at this point. Like so many steps feel like side steps rather than the traditional going down the funnel model, which doesn't really apply, it feels like, anymore. I think there's a real kind of interesting discussion about, like you said, how you're being represented across those different platforms. That's something, we've talked about on the podcast before, but you brought up a great point there of your brand and how that's being talked about and how that can literally be represented in branded search as well. And I think branded search is a really interesting thing. A lot of people are now kind of finally paying attention to. It feels like now brand has been such a big discussion when it comes to AI search and things like that.
Yeah.
Have you found that's, with you working in, as a consultant and having those kind of conversations, are more and more people talking about the value of branded search and how that's kind of shifted?
Yeah, especially for when you check the direct traffic and unassigned ones, you really can see those branded search growth if you really care about recognition efforts on your brand. And they are very helpful to understand if your brand is memorable, because it really helps to stick. It really helps people to stick on your brand, your product, your solutions.
Do you think people have kind of reassessed that and are now thinking about it as a more valuable thing to look at?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, because it's about being memorable and being recognizable. So it's very valuable thing to consider and apply to your strategy overall. Because branded search are now leading SEO people to understand if brand is appearing somewhere and if it is like providing some value to users, if people are using and typing your brand into those platforms, and it gives some idea to move the needle about recognition efforts. So I think people are just starting to understand how important to put effort on your brand. I mean, it was always important, but now it's much more important, as you can guess, because whatever you say, whatever you do on your website as content or other efforts, eventually it leads to the branded search, because you want to be discoverable, and it leads people to like remember your brand, your name,
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an interesting discussion. I think we always talk about brand versus unbranded traffic as a way of measuring, particular types of visibility. We especially bring it up a lot in things like migrations. I know that's something, the team here at Canada often talk about. It's like, if you're worried about losing traffic during a migration, it's almost always going to be that unbranded side of things. And when it comes to the brand, I think that is, like I said, something we're all talking about in SEO. I think it was pretty much like the catchphrase or the theme of every podcast episode I did last year. Everyone was talking about brand all the time. Yeah. So is there more to, being visible, tracking overall brand visibility than just the branded search? Or is that something that is like, is that the main focus, or are there more metrics we can think about? Is there other things we can think about when it comes to overall brand visibility and how we see it in things like GA4?
I think we are doing something like digital archaeology right now. We have to do this because there is no one signal, one metric, one measurement method that we can apply as universal truth, So branded search are really important for understanding how users are seeing your brand, how they remember your brand, if they trust you. And also other metrics like, as I said, discoverability and being visible on across platforms. They are all important, but I can't say that this one is the most important KPI to keep in mind, because everything is messy right now, and there is no one basic truth. Everything depends on your values, your funnels, your conversion goals. So yeah, and everything is changing constantly in this environment. I know I doesn't sound very trustable person right now, but I'm just trying to choose my words very consciously, because I don't want to direct people in a wrong or some direction that I don't want to do.
No, yeah, I think that gives you more credibility, because I don't, at the moment, I especially don't trust everyone who claims they have the answer or the solution to here's how to rank for AI search, or here's how to get all the traffic from AI search or whatever, because we don't know how to do that. It's a pretty it's so new that we don't have the correct answers, right? So I really appreciate you there being cautious and aware of what you're saying, because that kind of proves that you are aware of what you know and what you don't know. And I think if somebody is overconfident with that, that's always a bit of a red flag for me, to just be like, here's the answer, like the classic influencer thing. And I'm sure you've seen this a million times, and I'm sure everyone has seen this, where it's like, here's how I made my first $1 million. And you can just replicate that same thing and do it the same way. You see the same thing for SEO, right? Like, here's how I got my first 1 million visitors to my website. Here's the playbook, and you just copy and paste and get the same results. Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah, there's no playbook right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's
I
no
appreciate you
perfect.
being much more focused about it.
Yeah, there's no perfect solution for every brand right now. So each brands are individuals. So we should be conscious about this.
Definitely. Yeah. And you mentioned direct and unassigned traffic there. And I know explaining those to clients has always been an issue for me in the past, of how do you define these different types of traffic and all that kind of stuff. And from what I understand and from what I've seen, some of the clients I'm working on here, that's often where a lot of the LLM search stuff ends up being put into by default by GA4. Are there ways we can, whether it's through filters or other methods, to get a more accurate idea of what traffic we are receiving from AI search?
This is one of the messiest measurement problems right now.
Google doesn't want to give us the data, right? They just don't want to say here's all your stuff from Gemini. Here you go.
Yeah. AI tools strip referrers, so the traffic lands in GA4 looking like someone typed the URL manually, which we know probably didn't happen at all. So what I usually do is combining three methods, approach. First, I look at landing page patterns. If a very specific page suddenly gets a spike of direct traffic, that's usually a big clue that it came from AI discovery. And the other one is that I monitor referral domains, gets a spike, from AI tools, because some platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Copilot occasionally pass partial referrer data, and it's very helpful to understand. And the third one is that I correlate GA4 data with Search Console and other platforms to find out impressions and external mentions. I know it doesn't sound very perfect attribution, but nothing is perfect, as I said before. But when you multiple signals line up, you can start identifying probable AI discovered traffic. And I believe that we are moving from perfect attribution to probabilistic attribution right now. That's why I'm saying all the time, there's no perfect. There's no perfection. Don't try to look for it.
Yeah, I think you can get really stuck if you're still pursuing that perfection. Like you said, the way we had attribution, 5 years ago, as an example, was so much simpler and easier to understand. And in theory, Search Console data would kind of roughly align with GA4 data. And then obviously we had all the issues with cookies and consent and all that kind of stuff happening as well. And exactly as you mentioned there, like, brilliant tip, and a thing to consider, the fact that so much LLM traffic strips away the referrer. Like, great. How the hell do you know where any of this stuff is coming from, right? And I've had conversations with clients where we've seen an increase in direct traffic. And I think that's a brilliant idea from you there as well, where you like look at specific pages that are actually getting those increases to see, oh, is that being referred in a particular thing? Is that being mentioned? Is that relevant to a particular topic that's going on? Are there any trends of the kinds of pages that are increasing? That's a really good way of thinking about it. I really like that. And like you said, unfortunately, we're kind of stuck with this messy method because we don't have transparency of data anymore. We're not in, and I know I've been fairly pessimistic about this in the past, where like, I don't think we're ever going to have that again because of the nature of how data works and privacy and the way, these huge companies want to keep more restrictions on data in so many ways. Do you think that is basically the future for us in terms of analytics and tracking and traffic and things like that?
Yeah, I guess so, because we are moving from that approach, as I said, overthinking on metrics and single metrics and traffic numbers and clicks and conversions and the exact numbers are like overrated now. I mean, we are caring so much about numbers, but actually we should just care how they direct us, not the exact numbers, but the overall numbers maybe on each metrics that we are tracking. So that is the most helpful thing that I apply, because I've been there. I was also about to be crazy. Like, now what are we gonna do to track, to measure our success, And I've shifted my mindset from that to like how I should interpret that data that I have to direct my decisions, to direct our approach. That was really helpful, and so far I can say it keeps my sanity, and also our stakeholders and bosses. They are really happy when something works. They trust me, and they try to understand how I approach to those data that we have. They are not really perfect, but you have incomplete data and you have to decide on something. Then you should choose the what you have on your hands.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well. Thinking about, everybody always says, "Oh, I'm making data-driven decisions," or "You have to have a data-driven strategy," or anything like that. But exactly as you said there, the data we have is now less direct, to use a phrase, not direct traffic, but less specific.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot messier. So you're having to make inferences and build theories and hypotheses around it, rather than just like, direct traffic goes up, therefore more money for us. Like, it's nowhere near as simple as that anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really interesting thing, especially like having conversations about the value of informational content these days, right? I know I think it was my tip for SEO in 2024, I want to say, I think it was, which was like, more e-commerce sites should be making informational content, and how like so many e-commerce sites, and I've had success with this with clients in the past, of like, you so focus on your product pages or your listing pages, you kind of forget a lot of the information around that, and like, the post-purchase value and pre-purchase value and all kinds of stuff. Do you think we need to I guess, rethink how we measure the success of informational content as well, because it's not necessarily going to be a traffic driver anymore. It's not necessarily going to be that thing that's going to get us a bunch of clicks like it used to a couple of years ago. And like, how do you attribute success of informational content in the same way, I guess?
My answer is, of course, we should really care about informational content as we do before, because they are not supposed to convert. Actually, if they convert, then congratulations, you are so lucky. But they are supposed to prepare people to convert later. At least it is for me, in my experience. So. And in GA4, the way I try to surface that influence is through conversion paths and assisted interactions rather than the default reports. So I look a lot for the advertising section in the GA4, and it has really helpful reports like attribution models and conversion paths. Also, I really love path exploration reports, the custom reports that you can create in Explore section in GA4. It shows path length before conversion. And you can discover landing pages if they are informational content or not. And they generally appear in early sessions. And what you will usually see is informational content sitting quietly at step 1 or step 2 of the journey. So I assume that content is really successful when you consider its goal is not converting everyone, but leading them to convert later.
Yeah, I think conversion paths is something not enough people dig into for in GA4, and it's something I'm
No.
totally guilty of that. I will hold my hands up and be like, I am one of those people. I'm not blaming anyone else. I'm saying I am one of you. Like, for those kind of elements, like we've mentioned the funnel a couple of times already, and I think that's always like you said, it's so much messier now than it was a couple of years ago, right? You don't get that clear. Oh yeah, they click on a blog article and then there's a CTA for one of your products. They click that and then they click buy, add to cart, problem solved, 3 steps, nice and easy job. Like, that is not how it works anymore. Then I always quote these numbers on the podcast, and I feel like they get bigger and bigger every time. It was the old school marketing mentality of like, somebody has to see your brand 9 times before they actually purchase something from you or actually
Exactly.
convert, right? And now that number is more like 50 or 100 or something absolutely ridiculous. I've heard a lot of different numbers quoted, so I just kind of make up the numbers too. Like, I don't think there are
Yeah.
actually like confirmed numbers there. But exactly as you're saying there, when you're getting referenced in, you know, somebody's very specific question on ChatGPT search or whatever, and then refer to in AI mode, and then somebody is searching on Reddit, as you said, mentioned earlier as well, or social media searches like Instagram and TikTok, and then having conversations with their friends on some other platform through a WhatsApp chat or whatever it is. There are so many different ways to be talked about and not even realize it in many ways, right?
Yeah.
If discoverability is happening in those places, like I know I've been talking a lot about WhatsApp and Slack and things like that, where these like closed off parts of the internet, right? How can we go about actually paying attention to if we are getting traffic from those places? I guess the obvious answer, I guess, is chucking UTMs on everything, but that seems a bit clunky, and a lot of ways you're not going to be sharing UTM codes with everyone on, and you don't necessarily control what people are sharing as well, right? Is there a way we can kind of filter that stuff out and be more aware of where that traffic is coming from?
Yeah, those type of private sharing has always existed actually, but now it's a huge discovery channel. And apart from UTMs, I think 2 things help a lot. And one is looking at landing page spikes combined with drag traffic segments. If a niche article suddenly gets huge amount of traffic, direct visits, let's say, in a short time window, that's often a sign of community sharing. And the second one is creating custom channel groupings and monitoring behavioral signals. Like you can look at short time gaps between visits, clusters, or traffic from the same geographic region, and not organic, but general traffic bursts during working hours. So those patterns generally reveal community distribution around Slack or WhatsApp or any other channels, even when the original platform is invisible there. So again, it's a digital archaeology.
I love that phrase, digital archaeology. Like that made me smile the first time you said it, and it really does feel like
I feel
we kind of
that.
have we kind of have to do that now, right? We really are digging around in the data and trying to find the good stuff. And again, it used to be it feels like it used to be so much easier, but I do actually quite like. Oh, I guess the problem is like not everyone has time for it, right? But when you have the time, it's always really nice to be able to dig around and really get into the details, and you might find some really interesting insights. Like I said, I've had conversations with clients before where they don't realize where they might be having success. Like, oh, we didn't even realize we were featured on that newsletter or mentioned in this Slack group or wherever it is. And I've had conversations where that, like you said, the archaeology, I'm totally stealing that phrase, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is definitely how I'm going to talk to clients about it now. Sorry, yeah, I spent this week doing digital archaeology. They'll be like, what are we paying you for? Like, I'm an archaeologist now, don't worry.
As a side project, I'm doing archaeology.
There you go. Exactly. But yeah, I think being able to dig around into that data and get those specific insights can be so valuable, because that gives you an opportunity to not only get the bigger picture, but get the smaller picture and be able to capitalize on those things, right? If you were featured as a featured article in this particular newsletter or mentioned in a particular WhatsApp group or whatever it is, think about how you can capitalize on that with particular tactics. How you can think about, oh, we're being mentioned in Slack communities. Let's see what kind of Slack communities our audience are in and find that out and do audience research and stuff. That opens up a world of possibility. And I think through things like digital archaeology, you can really get those nice little insights that can make a huge difference. And like you said earlier, like you're not just focused on organic search stuff, you can really broaden out in that way as well, right?
And now everywhere is a search platform, literally.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember there was the big conversation of like, is TikTok a search engine?
Yes.
a couple of years ago. And I was like, technically no, but people are searching on it, so kind of. But like, it doesn't function the same way the search engines do. But more and more people are, as you said, like using other platforms to search, and also those other platforms are being referenced and cited in the traditional search platforms we use. So AI mode now has huge features for things like Reddit and TikTok, short-form videos from things like YouTube Shorts as well. So you really got to think about a multi-platform approach as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. If I could search by using my coffee machine, then I would call it as search platform as well. But I don't know if there's that kind of technology for coffee machines, or I don't know. But yeah, the approach should be like everything can be a search platform. So think for that, consider it.
Yeah, I know that was your tip for SEO in 2026, right? It was like treat your brand as multi-platform rather than think outside of
Yeah.
Google, and don't just, because we're all so used to and so focused by that side of things. I think it's a really good pointer to understand broader context and be aware of where your audience is, what people are talking about and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you
Thank
think
you.
a lot of us in SEO kind of get stuck in that a bit too much, get focused on one particular channel or one particular thing? Or is that just, a nature of this kind of era of change we're in at the moment, where we feels like we haven't really settled down into being comfortable with with AI search yet?
Yeah, everyone is confused right now, as I feel. I'm also confused because we were like over trusting our brilliant organic channel a lot, and we were tracking everything accordingly. But now everything is changed, and still everything has been changing. So yes, over trusting the channel labels is some common ways that SEO people can be misled right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's I was listening to your interview on Search Sessions the other day with Jean-Luca and Advanced Web Ranking, and talking about that, the nature of people getting stuck in with a different platform being a focus, or this different platform being a focus. I think you made a really good point in there of like literally tracking user IDs and things like that, and being aware of like, oh, this particular person is going from here to here and all this kind of stuff. And it can feel like there is a lot of messiness, and there is a lot of, Google is giving us less information. But through, again, I feel like it's the title of the episode, digital archaeology is the future. You can find those little things, right? And you can really like track a full user's journey and go through that process as well.
Yeah, and actually, it's not very relevant for the actual question right now, but I just want to add this. GA4 and other analytics tools are just for answering some questions that you already have. They are not giving the actual reports that you can use every month. I mean, it's really helpful to have dashboards to show how your efforts are paying off to your stakeholders or the people in charge. But also, if you have a specific question, then those analytics tools are really helpful to answer them.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. And I guess, like, do you think a lot of us get misled or end up going in the wrong direction if we focus on one metric too much? Does everyone kind of need to be thinking about the bigger picture rather than just, even if the client is saying like, we need to focus on conversion, we need to focus on this thing, do you think you really need to kind of readjust and think about the bigger picture no matter what you're doing?
Yeah, as I said, people generally assume that traffic equals influence, ranking equals discovery. But actually, no, they are not equal, and they are very different terms. And we are just overthinking our volume, but not influence patterns. A channel that closes the deal is becoming the hero. But as you said earlier, the user might have interacted with like maybe 15 different other pieces of content before that the final decision. So yeah, thinking about traffic and click numbers and those single numbers are kind of dangerous right now. Also, as I said, over trusting the channel labels are the main problems right now, because those categories, direct channel, organic traffic, referrals, are designed for much simpler web that we don't have anymore.
Definitely. Yeah. Feels like it's
Yeah.
getting more and more complicated, right?
Yeah. So analytics tools can tell you what happened, when happened, but they can't always tell why that action happened. So that is the concept that you should be in charge of, that you should think what to look for, which metrics can be answered for that. So yeah, we are generally thinking about our like old habits. We are still relying on our old habits, but it's normal because changing behaviors and habits are not really easy. But also, if you want to live, uh, want to live more in this AI-driven era, then we should care about our brain logic and leading stakeholders, bosses, and everyone. The not the actual truth, but the probabilistic approach that can lead us to the true decision.
Definitely, yeah. Like you said earlier, the probabilistic nature of it is something I think we're going to have to get used to. And you've touched on a couple of other channels there. I kind of want to get into a little bit of that as well. I know you talked about social channels and things like that, and also I know you talked about email marketing and that with Jean-Luc as well. Could you get into a little bit about how that multi-platform approach ties into things like email, social, and then trying to bring that together with SEO and kind of like make those things work together?
They are great channels to when you combine them for your strategy. Some of them are for pushing people to discover your brand or your solutions. Some of them are for convincing people to make the final decision, and some of them are just for the visibility, for the awareness level. So focusing on only one channel is not the correct one, but also overthinking about being everywhere, being every platforms, every channels, every marketing channel is not the thing that I'm recommending, because it depends on your goals, as I said. And also, yeah, email marketing is very beneficial for making your users, turning them into your brand ambassadors, because when you do your SEO job, you welcome people to your website. But email marketing is like, you have subscribers. They are already aware of your brand. It's not different. It's not the same thing with SEO effort. So combining them is creating a powerhouse for your brand. Also, social platforms are very helpful to make people trust your brand, and before discover your brand and then trust the brand. So yeah, all platforms has their own algorithms, their own goals. So you need to dig your channels, the beneficial ones for your goals and funnels and users, the audience, I mean, by using some tools, maybe observing behavior changes and shifts. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. The nature of, like you said, more subscriber-based platform like email or podcast or like YouTube and stuff like that as
Yeah.
well. I know YouTube has kind of moved away from a subscriber base driven algorithm these days, but it was something I talked about in my Brighton talk last year, was having that engaged audience, right? And that turning your, like you said, the initial discovery from SEO into the kind of audience that wants to continuously read your things through some of the tools they have in like Google Discover or the little subscription things, or literally here's a newsletter you can sign up for, so you don't have to, like you said, go out of your way to rediscover a brand every single time. You can just get it delivered to your inbox every single week. And we've seen success with our newsletter in that way. Obviously, this podcast is another way of that. It's a discoverability thing, but it's also a long-term nurturing channel as well, which I think you said really well there as well. Like you build that ongoing relationship with your audience, so it's not just you're not always necessarily bringing new people in, that the traffic doesn't always necessarily need to go up, but it's turning those existing audience members into paying customers, service subscribers, whatever it is, whatever your conversion point is, right? For me, I think that is really where a lot of people are maybe forgetting to do that element of it, and just kind of thinking about, we need to get more and more traffic, and not actually having that audience that actually cares and wants to engage or wants to buy stuff or convert in that way.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing, a couple of bits about GA4 before we get into recommendations at the end of the episode. Are there any bits of GA4? Because I know, again, we finally found someone who likes GA4. This is an important moment on the show. Any bits you would like to specifically shout out or mention that you think people don't realize are awesome or are underutilizing or are forgotten about or anything like that? Anything you particularly like that you think more people should know about in GA4?
Oh my God, yes, definitely. There are lots of features that GA4 provides for us. But mainly I can recommend two features I wish more people used. One is path exploration, and it is a fantastic feature for understanding how people actually move through pages, to understand which pages lead to conversion or micro conversions and everything. And especially when informational pages start the journey. And the other one is segment overlap feature. It's a great reporting dashboard for identifying audience intersections. For example, users who came through organic search and later returned through direct traffic, those intersections are where brand trust is formed, right? So most dashboards focus on channels individually, but I believe the most interesting insights usually live between channels. So path exploration and segment overlap would be my top two recommendations for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, that is some good stuff. I don't think I've ever heard anyone mention segment overlap. I have seen it. I've never used it. I now need to go and dig around and go and check it out. And speaking of things to check out, let's get in some recommendations from you, Bengü. What is one actionable thing you think the audience should start doing today?
Discover paths. I mean,
There you go.
mapping the real discovery paths of your content, not just the traffic channels, is one of the most important things, I guess. What I mean by this is take a few converting users and actually look at their full journey. Look for answers for that type of questions. Where did they first encounter the brand? What content did they read before they converted? How long did it take? So when you start searching for these type of questions, you realize that the user journey is not linear for almost case, at least. Someone might discover an article through AI search, come back a few weeks later through branded search, then revisit the site directly before converting. So instead of evaluating content or a page as isolated assets, I suggest everyone to think about it is a part of a discovery ecosystem. This small mind shift changes how you prioritize topics and internal linking and even how you report your success.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think about it and get into, like we said, the actual conversion journey that your users are going on. So I think so many people work on like theoretical stuff of like, oh yeah, we'll build a persona where this person does this. Like, you have data. Get into the data. There are real people that are actually going through these journeys. you can map it and actually have a look at that. That's a really good recommendation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that you should look for every one of your users. It's impossible.
Overall trends and patterns though, right? I think that's, like you said, the probabilistic, I can't say that word, nature of all of like, you don't want to track just like, what has Jack been doing on our website? What has Bengü been doing on our website? But like, 100 people dropped off at this point, or 500 people converted at this point after seeing this article first. Maybe that's something you can think about. That's something you can integrate and factor into your decisions and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Next up, tool, piece of software, anything that you think deserves a bit more attention. Don't say GA4.
Yeah. Apart from GA4, I can say Microsoft Clarity, or any other platforms like Hotjar that provides recordings and Heatmaps, that kind of functions. Everyone is deep in dashboards and attribution models right now, but sometimes watching actual user behavior gives you insights that numbers alone can't. And Microsoft Clarity session recordings and Heatmaps are really helpful to understand where people hesitate, where they stop scrolling, or which sections, which elements of a long article people engage with, especially for content heavy sites. That's incredibly useful because it helps you to understand how content is experienced by users, not just how it performs. So, and it's one of those tools where you discover something surprising within the first hour of looking at it. And it's really fun to watch how people interact with your site, right?
Definitely. I love that recommendation. I've I had a couple of clients where we worked with Clarity and Hotjar and things like that. And it, like you said, there is always going to be a surprise of like, I never would have thought that somebody would have clicked on that, or I didn't know you could do that, or why would they choose to click there, or like, I didn't know our menu did that. That's quite worrying. And even little things like that. My favorite one, and I bring this every time I mention session recording and heat map stuff, is the rage click data, where it's like, oh yeah, one of those menu items is clearly broken. Like you try and click the contact button and it doesn't work. So people go, try to click it. Like, yeah, that's probably something we need to fix. Like you then have, like I said, it gives you that data to then make those informed decisions. You can then have, you're not literally tracking every single user as we're saying, but it gives you an idea of patterns and behavior and understanding when you need to have that conversation with a developer or a client where it's like, so we need to change the main navigation. They're like, why? It's like, here's why. People don't click on this. Yeah, exactly. Literally, right? Yeah, you can literally give them the data. Exactly. It's a brilliant point, mate. I think that's a really good way of having that data and evidence to back up those decisions can really help you influence those user journeys more and be like, well, more people are focusing on this thing. Like an example I had with a client, they had, I want to say they had a general rule that was like every 200 to 300 words, there needs to be a CTA in a blog article. And I was like, sure, that's a random number you've just picked up out of thin air, but let's go for it. And almost none of the CTAs were being clicked. And I was like, see? And then they added interactive elements. So they had a product thing where it was like a 360 view, and there was it was like interior design elements in there as well. So you could like take, here's what a room would look like. And then you like you do like scroll across the screen, you drag the little slider, and here's what it could look like with our products. Everybody started interacting with those things. It's like, that is not the same as a CTA, but people are so much more engaged with that than just, please buy my stuff, please buy my stuff, please buy my stuff every 200 words. Like,
yeah, I feel you.
And last but not least, something you've been enjoying recently, not SEO, not GA4, anything like that. Anything you've been enjoying recently, something to recommend for me and the audience to go and check out.
Okay, The Sims.
The Sims.
Yeah, the
Nice.
video game. I mean, the
Amazing.
simulation environment, you know. Um, Actually, I've been playing it like for maybe 20 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's my childhood, mate. I remember The Sims.
Yeah. Yeah, I spent my entire childhood by playing Sims instead of doing homework. And now lately it just pops up in my mind because I was preparing my deck for SERPConf Sofia, and I thought I can do an analogy with the Sims and the actual web environment, because my starting point was like, actually we are like the Sims characters, like actual Sims, and we are not actually controlling those characters, but we are just designing environment around users. So that analogy popped in my mind, and I started to play The Sims again.
Amazing. Are you going like old school original Sims or Sims 2, Sims 3? What's the vibe,
Sims
Bengi?
4
Sims
right
4.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say modern stuff. That's still like 10 years old at this point, right? Like
Yeah, but I said I'm playing this game like for 20 years.
Yeah. I
Maybe
think
25, I don't remember.
the original Sims was the year 2000. That
2000.
I'm a video game nerd, so I remember this kind of stuff. So that's 26 years ago, and then I've just looked up Sims.
25 years it's been.
25 years, yeah, exactly. And then Sims 4 came out 2014, so 12 years ago. Now we're in 2026. So yeah, I wonder if they're going to do a Sims 5. Like, are they going to do that? Do you think? And do you ever have that moment where, I know it was a meme a couple of years ago where it's like you walk into a room and you forget what you've done, and it's like, oh, I must be a sim, and somebody just forgot to click. Like, why am I in the kitchen now? Like, what did I come in the kitchen to do?
Yeah,
like,
it's
your
a
little diamond
simulation,
just
right?
disappears. Yeah, we're living in a simulation. Exactly.
Yeah, always. I think this life is a simulation of someone is trying to control me, and I'm not. I'm just ignoring that command. Instead of doing that, I'm just doing this direction. Sometimes I'm trying to shock and surprise myself doing that.
That's going to be the moment in the edit where I'll put a little like Sims diamond above your head so we can start. It's been there the whole time. You just can't see it off camera, right?
And soon.
Exactly. We'll translate the podcast into Simlish and we'll just do the whole thing in Simlish the whole time. God, I remember. Yeah, I'm like having like Sims flashbacks now. When a bunch of like pop stars like re-recorded their songs in Simlish and stuff, I remember I think it was like Katy Perry and a bunch of other like the big pop in like the 2014, 2015 stuff. It's like they're getting actual people to sing in this made up language. This is wild.
Oh, wow. Actually, I didn't know that.
Oh, mate, I will send you some links. It is bizarre because it's a weird thing of like. Yeah, it sounds like a language, but you know it's not. But it's structured.
I know Simlish, but the song, yeah.
It is bizarre, yeah. Because you know the song as well. Like, oh, I know how this sounds in the original language, but this is so like it's breaking my brain a little bit. Like, oh, it's just slightly weird.
Does it sound like you sing a song in a different language that you don't know, or it sounds really bizarre?
Kind of. Imagine me trying to sing in Turkish, right? Like I do not speak Turkish at all. Like, I'll take like a Turkish pop song and just be like, I'll phonetically just like read the lyrics and hope for the best. Like, no, that's not how that works.
I would love to hear you singing in Turkish.
That'll be the bonus episode, mate. We'll save that later.
The next time.
Maybe next time. But in the meantime, Bengü, how can people follow you, what you guys are doing at Designmodo and all the awesome stuff you're doing in SEO, conferences you're talking at and all that good stuff?
Designmodo is mainly an email design platform. You can use pre-made templates and then customize them for your goals and brand assets. and then use them to share and send your newsletters and other emailing stuff. And also it provides a website builder with built-in AI functions, unsurprisingly. And people can find me in some SEO events, meetups, conferences. Like I plan to attend everything this year. But also I'm kind of active on LinkedIn and Blue Sky recently. So yeah.
Nice. I know we'll definitely be seeing each other at Search and Stuff in London later this year. Hopefully we'll
Yes.
cross paths. I've got a few other conferences and events. And of course, Search Norwich
Such
XL
knowledge,
in
yeah.
September. This is like official announcement. You are speaking at Search Norwich XL. We're very excited to have you. And yeah, if you're listening to this when this goes out, we will have other announcements coming up soon. But this is like premiere debut information. Like, very excited to have you come along, mate, and speak at Search Norwich XL.
Yeah, that is one of the most expected experience for me for this year. I mean, obviously, Search and Stuff is the top one, and Search Norwich Excel is the second one. That
I'll
I'm
take
really
being number 2.
dying to be there.
I'm happy taking number 2 to Yamba Begum and what you guys have been doing at Search Norwich, so Search and Stuff. So yeah, and I can finally attend a Search and Stuff as well. I'm really looking forward to the one in London. So that is, I want to say 26th of June. Is that the date for
Yes.
that? I think
Yeah.
Yes, I did
Yeah,
remember. Cool.
true.
So yeah, I'll put links for both those things. I'll put links to go and follow Bengü on LinkedIn and check out Designmodo and all that stuff. Thank you so much for joining me, mate. It's been a pleasure to have a conversation.
Thank you so much for having me in this brilliant podcast.
And that wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for watching and listening, wherever you're watching and listening. Thank you to Bengü for joining me on the show. Finally, like we said, it's been a long time coming. We've been meaning to have this conversation for a very long time. So I'm really, really pleased we finally got to sit down and chat all things GA4, attribution and measurement and all that good stuff. In the meantime, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week with more fantastic guests. Next week's episode will actually be an in-studio episode with another member of the Canda team. But it's not Mark Williams Cook. It's another director at Canda, the one and only, our Director of Strategy, Jessica Bettis. We're going to talk all about client partnerships, account management, how specialists and account managers and client partners can work together to make that relationship work better for our clients. It's a really, really interesting conversation, and Jessica is somebody I've been meaning to get on the show for a very long time. And you'll actually be seeing more of the Canda team on the podcast in the near future as well. Throughout this year, I'm going to feature members of the Canda team on the podcast to share their insights, because I feel like I do a lot of talking already and a lot of talking to camera, a lot of talking to people and representing Canda. Of course, so does our SEO director, Mark Williams Cook. But it's going to be great to get other people on the show from the team to share their insights and expertise as well. And Jessica is the first person on that list. So stay tuned for my conversation next week with Jessica, all about client partnerships and account management. And in the meantime, have a lovely week, and I will see you next week. Thanks very much for listening and watching.